Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Nightreign news. We actually had some news drop today as I make this video. It's the fact that the hard mode bosses are coming. We now have that confirmation of the next set. Starting on July 31st, we have that next Everdark cycle. The next enhanced Night Lords will be Tricephalos, Augur, Equilibrious Beast, and Fissure in the Fog. We actually already knew this was happening from the original Bandai post about the Everdark bosses. They did say that other Everdark sovereigns, again listing those four, will be added to the game at a later date after the initial announcement of the system as a whole. Obviously, we weren't expecting the 3 weeks of repeat hard mode bosses, but we knew that that was going to end on the 31st, and so it just makes sense that we were going to see this. It's just nice to have confirmation. Overall, the reception to this has been pretty positive on social media, Reddit, Twitter, or otherwise, and that's as expected. Obviously, the hard mode bosses have really invigorated the player base, giving us a reason to jump back in and experience the new challenge. The only real criticism or negativity that I've seen is basically, just a big wait between the boss sets, or people hoping that we'll have 2 a week instead of 1 a week. But to be honest, I think it's just going to be the same pattern. One of the remaining 4 listed per week, and they'll probably release as before every Thursday. But we were thinking, if this is the timeline they're going to go for, the current set of hard mode bosses, then roughly 3 weeks of repeating it for the people that missed it, then the next set of hard mode bosses, probably another 3 weeks or so of repeating it, then you've got the hard mode of Hjorsta finally, and maybe something after that where we can play against all of them when we want. What happens at that point? Well, it might just suggest a timeline for the DLC. So yeah, on the 28th of August, that's when we'd have all 4 of the new hard mode bosses up. And at that point, we can expect the repeat bosses to actually start happening. I don't know whether they do 3 weeks again. Probably they do 4, right? Since there's 4 bosses compared to 3 this time. Then after that, we'd probably get hard mode Hjorsta. That'd be around middle of September, which would be probably a great time for them to announce the DLC. We are expecting that DLC to come out this year, probably towards the end of it, but now we have some kind of timeline, or at least an idea of it. They could announce the DLC around that point, and then we'd find out if it's December or sooner. But if you were being particularly optimistic, you could have its announcement sooner, right? Even before hard mode Hjorsta, and then have it drop maybe a few weeks after hard mode Hjorsta's dropped. Maybe that's too optimistic, but I guess it's possible. But yeah, what can we expect to see from each of these new hard mode bosses? As before, we're going to see a new phase 3, but the boss is going to start in its second phase initially. So maybe when you start the fight with Gladius, he's immediately a triple boss. Augur will have all those tentacles out and probably start doing the teardrop nukes immediately. You get the ridiculous supers of, say, Caligo. Honestly, I'm pretty hopeful for Caligo. He's one of the coolest fights, just design-wise, mechanics I really like, but I also weirdly found him one of the easiest. So I'm very, very excited for the hard mode version of that to maybe introduce some more mechanics and actually challenge us. Most people are probably excited for Libra though, is one of the fan favorites of the game. Whatever the hell phase 3 of that's going to be. We expect the same main weaknesses though, but to be fair, Adele did have something a bit weird, right? Where it didn't get mini-stunned by the poison buildup. However, the Holy Burst stun still worked for hard mode Fulgor, and then say the Fire Dot against the Moth Noster, that works as well. So I suppose at very least we can expect the same weaknesses to be a great source of damage, and hopefully their mini-stuns or effects will still work. And on the bright side, by the time we get to hard mode Libra, madness drops are actually reliable at this point of the game. So hey, maybe it'll actually matter in that context. Gladius's main weakness is still Holy, of course, but you'll actually deal decent damage with Pierce in particular. Be aware that Gladius, as a fire monster, is super resistant to fire, and also very hard to poison, but it's not impossible. Interestingly, it seems like he's actually quite resistant to frost buildup, which you may have experienced, but it still does work when it procs. Otherwise, Rot and Bleed will work pretty well. For Augur, it is interesting that he's kind of resistant to pierce and blunt damage, particularly weak to slash. As a magical jellyfish, he does have some reasonable magic resistance, but it's actually also super resistant to fire, I guess as a water monster. Your best option, of course, as before, will be lightning. And do note that it has a bit of resistance to Holy as well. You cannot poison Augur or bleed him either, but you can rot him and frost him. For Libra, slash damage is technically your best option for just raw. He does have some magic resistance, will be a common theme here. Fire, interestingly, will work decently, but obviously the best option is going to be Holy. And his unique weakness is still Madness for that trigger, causing him to go Madness mode rather than Spellcaster mode. Also, he can be poisoned, bled, rotted, and of course cold procced. Finally, for Fissure in the Fog Caligo, blunt damage is going to be your best raw source. It's also resistant to slash and also pierce. Again, Magic Dragon, resistant to magic. Ice Dragon, weak to fire, is your best option though, with a special debuff. Unfortunately, it is resistant to lightning and holy. Poison and rot are going to work well. It can be bled pretty decently, but it's particularly resistant to frostbite buildup. Go figure. Frost Dragon. So hopefully that's useful. What order are they going to release in? We can't say for sure, as it turns out. Say the original 3, they were originally listed as Gaping Jaw, Sentient Pest, and then Darkdrift Night, but instead it was Jaw, Night, then Pest at the end. And what's interesting about this is, say, the list. It's Tricephalos, Augur, then you got Libra, and Caligo after that. But the artwork that shows this announcement for this news was looking at a new version of Libra. So maybe we'll start with Libra. Either way, we can see some new changes to Libra in that artwork. If you actually stop and look at his chest, you can see that this is different. His horrible skin flap that makes his kind of covering, that was covered in physical piercings with golden light about them. In this new image, we can see how they're being broken and pulled apart as the chest of Augur is opening up, and inside is some sort of glowing golden lines, which very well may be a rune of power. Hjolster himself is basically this like armored knight that inside is this shell that holds a rune. The fact that Libra has one is quite the surprise, because the only characters we've seen like this will be Marika / Radagon, and then Hjolster is the big boss of Nightreign. So what is Libra doing with one? He's a being that's mixing of fundamental holy and then madness on the other side as the two sort of compete. I've always seen it as him kind of holding back his own madness as a madness creature by using holy. And then when we use madness against him, or say break his channel bubble, break those holy sigils, that's when he kind of goes mad, goes more physical, leans into the madness, right? Maybe the twist here will be that he'll be way more holy. But since he's the madness guy and we had the more holy nature of Fulgor, maybe the true madness is going to come out. What do you guys think? But yeah, either way, excited to have more information and actually new hard mode bosses coming. I must admit that I've lost a lot of interest in Nightreign during the period that we've been doing repeat hunts of the ones we've already done. That comes from the perspective of someone that's played a lot of Nightreign and every week was there for the new bosses. What if someone took a holiday or just missed it for whatever reason? It's a pretty big deal for them to get a chance to go fight it because they missed it, get the new relic that they missed from that, and the 25 marks as well. Something I was a bit concerned about was like that 3-week buffer of repeat content. Would they lose momentum? Would people stop playing and then maybe not care when the next hard mode bosses come back? But from what I see on socials and Reddit and so on, it seems very excited, very hype. Maybe even that little buffer to go play other things and do other stuff for a bit actually reinvigorates players to come back when there's new stuff to do. We'll see how it all turns out though, and you can follow the channel for more information about all of it. Guides, tips and tricks and other stuff as soon as it all happens. Until then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.